The command center of the Galactic Dominion hummed with quiet efficiency. Thousands of lights blinked across holographic displays, showing the vast reach of an empire that controlled half the known galaxy. Commander Zarketh stood at attention, his forearms clasped behind his back in the traditional Krell military stance. His dark exoskeleton gleamed under the artificial lights, and his mandibles clicked with satisfaction as he received his new orders. "A single human?" he asked, unable to hide the amusement in his voice. "You just wanted me here for one small human?" The intelligence officer, a thin Vexler with too many eyes, projected an image into the air. A woman's face appeared, rotating slowly. She looked unremarkable by human standards, perhaps 50 or 60 Earth years old, with gray streaks in her dark hair and lines around her eyes. She could have been anyone's grandmother. "This human has destroyed 3 of our transport vessels in the Outer Rim," the officer said. 17 crew members dead. Cargo worth millions of credits lost. She operates alone from a modified cargo hauler, and she has evaded capture for 6 months. Zarketh studied the image with his primary eyes, while his secondary eyes scanned the data. The human had no military record in recent years. No special augmentations, no advanced weapon systems on her ship. She was nothing, a pest, an insect to be crushed. "I will take my elite squad," Zarketh said. "We will have her head within a week." "There is one more thing," the intelligence officer said, but before he could continue, the doors to the command center burst open. The creature that stumbled through barely looked like a soldier anymore. Thelmar had once been a proud Skarathi warrior, his scales bright green and his body strong. Now half his reptilian face was a mass of old burn scars. He was missing his left eye, his right arm, and walked with a heavy limp. Despite the Empire's advanced medicine, some wounds remained. Some wounds were meant to remain. "Don't do this," Thelmar rasped, his voice damaged like the rest of him. "Don't send anyone after her." The command center fell silent. Several officers shifted uncomfortably. Thelmar was a decorated veteran of the Contact Wars, the brutal conflict with humanity 3 decades ago. He had earned the right to speak, even if what he said sounded like madness. "You dare interrupt a military briefing?" Zarketh demanded. "I dare because I know what she is," Thelmar said. He moved closer, dragging his damaged leg. "I know what that symbol means." He pointed at the image with his remaining arm. In the corner of the human's photograph was a tattoo, partially visible on her neck. A small house with chicken legs. An old Earth symbol. "What symbol?" Zarketh asked impatiently. "Baba Yaga," Thelmar whispered. "It's what they called themselves during the war. Special operators. Ghosts. The ones who didn't fight in battles. They hunted. They terrified. They made examples." Someone in the back of the command center laughed. Then another. Soon several officers were chuckling at the old veteran's words. "The humans lost that war," Zarketh said. "They accepted limited territory. They agreed to our terms. They are no threat." "We didn't win that war," Thelmar said, his voice rising. "We just stopped losing. There's a difference. The humans agreed to peace because they chose to, not because we forced them. And the Baba Yagas were the reason we wanted peace so badly." Zarketh waved a dismissive hand. "Old war stories, legends, propaganda. This is one aging human female with a small ship. You are letting fear from 30 years ago cloud your judgment." Thelmar grabbed Zarketh's arm with surprising strength. His one remaining eye was wide, desperate. "I was there. I saw what they did. We captured a supply base, thought we won a great victory. Then the Baba Yagas came. 3 of them. Just 3 humans against 200 of our soldiers. They didn't attack directly. They waited. They watched. They learned our patterns, our fears, our weaknesses." He released Zarketh's arm and touched his scarred face. "They killed us slowly, one by one. Made it look like accidents at first. Equipment failures. Airlock malfunctions. Then when we realized we were being hunted, they became bolder. They left messages, warnings, bodies arranged in patterns. By the time reinforcements arrived, only 20 of us were still alive, and we were all mad with terror. I got these scars trying to burn one of them out of the ventilation system. She survived. I barely did." The command center was quiet now. No one laughed. "That was war," Zarketh said, but his voice was less certain. "Different circumstances. This human is not a soldier anymore. She is old. Alone. She is Baba Yaga," Thelmar insisted. "It doesn't matter if she's old. It doesn't matter if she's alone. Humans don't stop being dangerous when they age. They just get more patient, more clever, more willing to do whatever it takes. He looked around the room at all the young officers who had never fought humans. You don't understand. Baba Yaga is not just a name. It's a promise. It means I am the monster that monsters fear. The intelligence officer cleared his throat. The human's real name is Katya Volkov, former special operations during the Contact Wars. Retired 28 years ago. She was living quietly on a frontier colony until 6 months ago. What changed 6 months ago? Zarketh asked. Slavers raided her colony. Took 43 colonists, including her granddaughter. Thelmar made a sound between a laugh and a sob. You took her family. You fools. You absolute fools. The slave trade is illegal, the intelligence officer said quickly. Those were independent criminals, not sanctioned by the Dominion. Criminals using Dominion ships, Thelmar said. Following Dominion trade routes. Selling to Dominion markets. Everyone in this room knows the slave trade exists. You just pretend not to see it. The intelligence officer's many eyes looked away. Zarketh had heard enough. He was a warrior, not a storyteller. He dealt with facts, not legends. I respect your service, Thelmar, but I have my orders. The Dominion cannot allow a single human to attack our vessels without consequence. It makes us look weak. Going after her will make you look dead, Thelmar said. Zarketh turned to his assembled team. 12 warriors stood at attention. Each one was worth 100 regular soldiers. They had trained for years in the art of hunting and killing. They were the best the Dominion had to offer. They wore advanced armor, carried weapons that could punch through starship hulls, and had genetic enhancements that made them faster and stronger than any baseline species. We leave within the hour, Zarketh announced. We will find this human. We will eliminate her, and we will remind the galaxy why the Dominion is feared. His team saluted in unison. The sound of their armored fists hitting their chests echoed through the command center. Thelmar watched them file out, these confident young soldiers who had never fought humans. He wanted to stop them. He wanted to make them understand. But he knew they wouldn't listen. Pride never listened. Pride had to learn through pain. He made his way to the observation deck and watched Zarketh's ship undock and accelerate toward the jump point. The vessel was sleek and deadly, packed with enough firepower to level a small city. Against any other enemy, it would be unstoppable. But they weren't hunting any other enemy. They were hunting Baba Yaga. Thelmar stayed at the window long after the ship disappeared. He stayed there and remembered. He remembered the fear, the darkness, the humming, that terrible human humming echoing through the corridors as his friends died one by one. Don't kill her, he whispered to the empty observation deck, to the stars, to the gods of his people. Please, just leave her alone. But he knew they wouldn't, and deep in his scarred and damaged heart he knew that many of them would never come home. The debris field stretched for thousands of kilometers in every direction. Broken asteroids tumbled slowly through space, remnants of mining operations from a century ago. Somewhere in the middle of this cosmic graveyard floated an abandoned processing station. Its lights dark, its corridors empty, or so it appeared. Commander Zarketh studied the sensor readouts with 3 of his eyes while his 4th eye watched his team prepare for insertion. The target's ship was docked inside the station's main bay. It was a small cargo hauler, modified but nothing impressive. The scan showed no active weapon systems, no shields, no power signature beyond basic life support. She's trapped herself, Zarketh said with satisfaction. There's nowhere to run. His second-in-command, a hulking Vrax named Gorton, grunted agreement. Too easy. Old human probably didn't expect us to find her so fast. Never underestimate prey just because it's cornered, Zarketh said, remembering Thelmar's warnings despite himself. We go in with full tactical protocol. 3 teams. Alpha takes the main bay. Beta sweeps the upper levels. Gamma secures engineering and life support. No chances, the teams moved with professional efficiency. They breached the station simultaneously from 3 different airlocks. Their armor sensors showed them the layout of the station, marking the fastest routes to their objectives. Everything was going according to plan. Alpha team reached the main bay first. The human's ship was there just as the scans had shown. The cargo bay doors were open. The boarding ramp was down. It looked almost inviting. No heat signatures, Alpha leader reported. No movement. Ship appears empty, Zarketh frowned. Beta Gamma report. Beta team in position. Upper level clear. No contacts, Gamma team in engineering. It's cold down here, Commander. Life support is running, but everything else is minimal power. Something was wrong. Zarketh could feel it in the way his mandibles twitched. Where was the human? Their intelligence said she was here. The ship was here. But where was she? Alpha, board that vessel. Find out where she went. 4 soldiers moved up the boarding ramp, weapons ready. The interior of the ship was dark except for emergency lighting. They moved through the cramped corridors, checking the cockpit, the cargo hold, the small living quarters. Commander, Alpha Leader's voice came through. We found something. You need to see this. Zarketh felt a chill run down his spine. What is it? A body. One of the slavers from the ship she attacked. He's been dead for days. And Commander, he's been arranged, positioned, like a message. What kind of message? There was a pause. A warning. He's sitting in the pilot's chair with a sign around his neck. It says turn back. Beta Team's voice crackled through the communications. Contact lost with Beta 3 and Beta 4. They were checking the dormitory section and stopped responding. Send the rest of Beta to their location, Zarketh ordered. Now. Beta Team rushed through the corridors to find their missing teammates. They found the dormitory section empty. No bodies, no blood. Just 2 sets of armor and weapons lying on the floor. The soldiers were gone. Impossible, Beta Leader said. They were just here. 30 seconds ago they were talking to us. Gamma Team's voice came through next, tight with tension. We have movement in the maintenance tunnels. Thermal signature, small, human-sized. It's moving fast. Pursue, Zarketh ordered. All teams converge on that position, but the thermal signature disappeared. Then it reappeared on the other side of the station. Then it was gone again. The teams chased shadows through the dark corridors, their heavy boots echoing on metal floors. That's when the lights went out. Complete darkness swallowed the station. The soldiers' armor immediately switched to night vision, bathing everything in green light. But night vision had limitations. It showed shapes, movements, but not details, not the small things that made the difference between life and death. Emergency power should have kicked in, Gamma Leader said. Someone disabled it manually. A sound echoed through the station's communication system. At first Zarketh thought it was static. Then he realized it was humming. A human voice, female, humming an old melody. It was soft, almost gentle, like a grandmother might hum to a child at bedtime. But there was nothing gentle about it now. In the darkness in this abandoned station filled with his scattered soldiers, that humming was the most terrifying sound Zarketh had ever heard. Alpha Team, fall back to the insertion point, he ordered. Beta, Gamma, converge on Alpha's position. We're leaving. Commander, we're trained hunters, Gorton protested. We can't retreat from one human. We're not hunters anymore, Zarketh said, finally understanding what Thelmar had tried to tell him. We're prey. Move now! But it was too late. Gamma Team never made it to the rendezvous point. Their communications cut off one by one. First Gamma 2, then Gamma 5, then the others. The last thing anyone heard from Gamma Leader was a scream, cut short. Beta Team made it halfway before they encountered her. She was standing in a corridor, lit from behind by the red emergency lights that had suddenly activated. The soldiers could see her clearly now. A human woman, older, her gray-streaked hair pulled back, wearing old military fatigues that had been modified with extra pockets and equipment. She was smaller than any of them, unarmed as far as they could see. She smiled at them. It was not a kind smile. You came for the wrong grandmother, she said in perfect Krell language. Then she moved. Zarketh would never be able to explain how she did it. She shouldn't have been fast enough. Shouldn't have been strong enough. But she used the environment like a weapon. She knew every corner of the station, every maintenance hatch, every weakness in their armor, every blind spot in their sensors. Beta Team fired, but she was already gone. Disappeared into a ventilation shaft that should have been too small for a human. Then she was behind them. Then she was above them. Then she was everywhere and nowhere. One by one, Beta Team fell. Not all of them died. Some were just disabled, their armor breached, their weapons destroyed. She left them alive, whimpering in the darkness. Zarketh realized she was doing it on purpose. She was sending a message. This is what happens when you hunt me. By the time Zarketh reached the insertion point with a handful of soldiers still alive, 6 of his 12 elite warriors were gone. The others were wounded, terrified, their confidence shattered. We need to go, Gorton said, his voice shaking. We need to go right now. They scrambled back through the airlock to their ship. As they sealed the doors and prepared to undock, Zarketh looked back at the station one last time. She was standing in the bay window watching them. Just standing there watching, making sure they saw her, making sure they understood. She raised one hand in a small wave. Goodbye. Run along now. The humming started again, transmitted directly to their ship's communications. That same gentle melody, now burned into Zarketh's memory forever. Get us out of here, he ordered. Maximum speed. Don't stop until we're 3 systems away. As their ship accelerated away from the debris field, Zarketh sat in the command chair and tried to stop his hands from shaking. He had led soldiers for 20 years. He had fought in a dozen campaigns. He had killed enemies without number, but he had never been hunted before. He had never felt like prey. He thought about Thelmar's warnings, about the old veteran's scars, about the terror in his remaining eye. Zarketh had dismissed it as the paranoia of a damaged soldier. He would never dismiss it again, because now he understood. Now he knew what the humans had done during the contact wars. They hadn't just fought the Dominion. They had taught the Dominion to be afraid. And that human woman, that grandmother with gray in her hair and old fatigues, was still teaching that lesson to anyone foolish enough to ignore it. Zarketh looked at his surviving soldiers. 6 of the Dominion's elite reduced to frightened children by one aging human female. No, not a human female. Baba Yaga, the monster that monsters fear. The news spread across the galaxy faster than light itself. Commander Zarketh's elite squad, reduced to 6 terrified survivors, 6 of the Dominion's finest warriors, fleeing from a single human woman. The story was told in whispers at first, then louder, then with barely concealed amusement on worlds that had no love for the Dominion. In the Grand Council chambers on Vortalis, the Dominion's leadership faced an impossible choice. They could admit that one human had defeated their elite forces, or they could double down. They could show weakness, or they could show strength. Pride, as always, made the decision for them. High Magistrate Calvin stood before the assembled council, his 3 heads speaking in harmony. The human Katya Volkov is hereby declared an enemy of the Dominion. A bounty of 10 million credits is placed on her head, dead or alive. The council chamber erupted with approval. Finally action. Finally strength. But one voice spoke against the tide. Councillor Miraz, an elderly Vexler known for her wisdom, raised a trembling hand. Perhaps we should negotiate. The humans' actions, while illegal, were motivated by personal loss. Our own unofficial elements took her family. Maybe we should crush her, Calvin interrupted. We should make an example of her. The Dominion does not negotiate with terrorists. Is she a terrorist? Miraz asked quietly. Or is she a grandmother seeking justice? The question hung in the air for a moment before Calvin dismissed it. The human coalition will be contacted. They will surrender this criminal or face consequences. The message was sent to human space the same day. The human coalition's response came within hours. It was short. Too short. Just one sentence from Ambassador Chen, a human woman with steel gray hair and eyes that had seen too much. We suggest you leave her alone. No apology. No offer to help. No promise to bring Katya Volkov to justice. Just a simple suggestion, delivered with the kind of calm that made smart people nervous. The Dominion ignored it. Across the galaxy, the media networks picked up the story. Some outlets called Katya Volkov a hero, others called her a monster. But everyone wanted to know who she was. The intelligence services began digging deeper. What they found painted a picture that made the Dominion's leadership deeply uncomfortable. Katya Volkov had been born on Earth during the expansion period. She joined the military young and showed exceptional aptitude for unconventional warfare. During the contact wars, she was recruited into a special operations unit. The unit had no official name, but its members called themselves various things from Earth mythology. Dragons, Reapers, and yes, Baba Yagas. The Baba Yagas specialized in psychological warfare. They didn't fight battles. They haunted them. They would infiltrate enemy positions and kill slowly, methodically, making each death a message. They turned confident soldiers into paranoid wrecks. They made the Dominion's forces afraid to sleep, afraid to be alone, afraid to win because winning meant occupying territory where the Baba Yagas might be waiting. After the war ended, Katya Volkov retired. The intelligence reports showed her settling on a frontier colony called Haven's Rest. She married a fellow veteran. They had a daughter. The daughter grew up, married, had a child of her own. Katya's husband died of natural causes 10 years ago. Katya stayed on the colony, helping with the gardens, teaching at the local school, living quietly. Then 6 months ago, slavers came. The attack happened at night. They wanted workers for the illegal mining operations in the outer sectors. They took anyone young and healthy enough to survive the work. 43 colonists were loaded into ships and jumped away before the colony's defense forces could respond. Among those taken was Katya's 15-year-old granddaughter, Anya. The intelligence report included testimony from survivors. They said Katya had fought like a demon when they came for her family. She killed 3 slavers before they stunned her. By the time she woke up, the ships were gone. The next day, Katya went to her storage shed and opened crates that hadn't been touched in 30 years. Old military equipment, weapons, armor, tools of a trade she thought she'd left behind. She took her old cargo hauler, upgraded it with every piece of military hardware she could buy or steal, and went hunting. The first slaver ship she found, she boarded quietly. She freed the captives, downloaded the ship's logs, and left the crew floating in space. The second ship, she was less gentle. She wanted them to know she was coming. The third ship tried to fight back. It went badly for them. That's when the Dominion noticed. That's when they sent Zarkith, and that's when they learned what happens when you wake up a sleeping dragon. Now, sitting in the council chambers, High Magistrate Calvin reviewed all this information and made his decision. We will not negotiate. We will not retreat. 3 warships will be dispatched to hunt down this human. The VSS Retribution, the VSS Vengeance, and the VSS Dominion's Pride. Full crews, full military authority. They will find her. They will end this. 3 warships, not elite squads, not hunters. Proper military vessels, each capable of bombarding a planet, each carrying hundreds of soldiers and enough firepower to fight a small war. Surely, the council thought, surely this would be enough. Thelmar, watching from the observer's gallery, felt sick. They still didn't understand. They still thought this was about military force, about firepower, about overwhelming strength. They didn't realize that Katya Volkov wasn't trying to win a war. She was trying to make them bleed. The 3 warships departed with great ceremony. News networks covered their launch. The galaxy watched. The message was clear. The Dominion does not tolerate defiance. The ships tracked Katya's vessel to the Ashara Nebula, a region of space known for its sensor-disrupting gases and dangerous radiation pockets. It was a good place to hide. It was also, as the warship soon discovered, a good place to die. Katya's cargo hauler was spotted on the edge of the nebula. The warship surrounded it. They hailed her, demanded her surrender, warned her that resistance was futile. Her response was to charge directly at the nearest warship at full speed. The VSS Retribution tried to evade, but the cargo hauler was faster than it should have been, more maneuverable than a ship that size had any right to be. Katya's vessel slammed into the warship's midsection at near relativistic speed. The explosion was visible from 3 systems away. Both ships were destroyed instantly. Debris scattered across thousands of kilometers. The VSS Vengeance and VSS Dominion's Pride scanned the wreckage carefully. No life pods, no survivors. Nothing but twisted metal and radiation. The fleet commander reported back to Vortalis. Target eliminated. Threat neutralized. The Dominion celebrated. News networks showed the footage of the explosion. Commentators praised the military's decisive action. The bounty was declared fulfilled posthumously. The 10 million credits would go to the fleet that ended the threat. High Magistrate Calvin addressed the galaxy. Let this be a lesson. The Dominion is patient. The Dominion is fair. But the Dominion is also strong. Those who attack us will face justice. In a small bar on a distant station, Thelmar sat alone, drinking something that burned on the way down. He watched the news coverage on a cracked monitor. He saw the celebration. He saw the smug satisfaction on Calvin's faces, and he laughed. It was not a happy laugh. It was the laugh of someone who had seen this before. Who knew how the story really went? The bartender, a young Kresh who had never seen war, looked at him strangely. Why you laugh, old one? The human is dead. The threat is over. Thelmar took another drink. She's not dead. Baba Yaga never dies, but we saw the explosion. The ships are debris. We saw an explosion, Thelmar corrected. We saw what she wanted us to see. He was right. Deep in the debris field, concealed by radiation and wreckage, a single escape pod drifted slowly away from the explosion. It was small, almost invisible. Its systems were minimal, giving off barely any signature at all. Inside, Katya Volkov checked her injuries. Nothing serious. Some bruises. A cut on her forehead. She had timed the evacuation perfectly, launching the pod milliseconds before impact, using the explosion to mask her escape. She pulled up a star chart on the pod's basic computer. The nearest Dominion logistics hub was 3 days away at the pod's slow speed. She could make it. She had supplies. She had time, and she had something else. Before ramming the warship, she had hacked its database. She now had complete records of the Dominion slave trade network. Every ship. Every route. Every buyer. Every official who looked the other way. Katya smiled. It was not a kind smile. It was the smile of Baba Yaga, the witch from the old stories. The witch who lived in a house with chicken legs. The witch who ate the wicked. The galaxy thought she was dead. That was good. Dead people could go places, do things, hunt without being hunted. Her granddaughter was still out there, still alive according to the records she had stolen. Still suffering, Katya closed her eyes and let herself remember Anya. Sweet Anya who loved flowers and old songs, who trusted the universe to be kind. The universe had not been kind, but Katya would be something worse than unkind. She would be justice. She would be vengeance. She would be the nightmare that reminded the galaxy why you don't hurt a grandmother's family. She would be Baba Yaga, and her hunt was just beginning. The logistics hub designated Station 7-9 floated in the dead space between systems, a waypoint where ships refueled and crews rested before jumping to their next destination. It was a boring assignment. Nothing ever happened at 7-9. The station commander, a bored Krell named Sevthar, spent most of his time dealing with paperwork and petty disputes between crew members. So when a small escape pod drifted into their sensor range, broadcasting a distress signal, Sevthar was almost grateful for something to do. Probably some idiot trader who miscalculated their jump, he muttered, ordering the pod brought into the docking bay. The pod was standard Dominion military issue. Probably from one of the warships that had destroyed that human terrorist weeks ago. Sevthar sent a team to check it out. When they opened the pod, they found it empty except for a small device blinking on the pilot's seat. The device activated the moment they touched it. A holographic message appeared showing a human woman's face. "Hello," Katya Volkov said. "By now you've realized I'm not dead. Surprise, I'm in your station. I've been here for 2 days. I've seen your security. I've mapped your systems. I've watched your routines, and I've downloaded your entire database." Sevthar's blood went cold. "I know you're part of the slave network," Katya continued. "I know you process the shipping manifests. I know you falsify records. I know you get paid to look the other way. And now everyone else will know too." The hologram flickered off. Alarms started blaring throughout the station. Security teams rushed to find the intruder, but Katya was already gone, her small shuttle undocking from a maintenance bay that no one had been watching. By the time Sevthar realized what happened, the data was already spreading across the galactic network. Every news outlet, every government, every citizen with a computer. The entire slave trade network exposed in excruciating detail. Ship routes, buyer names, account numbers, bribed officials, everything. The scandal was massive. It wasn't just independent criminals anymore. The data showed Dominion nobles involved, military officers, even some council members. The empire that claimed to stand for order and civilization was revealed to be profiting from the sale of sentient beings. Protests erupted on a dozen worlds. Some species that had been neutral suddenly wanted nothing to do with the Dominion. The Human Coalition released a statement expressing deep concern and demanding immediate action. Other governments joined in, seeing an opportunity to weaken a rival. In the council chambers on Vortalis, High Magistrate Calven tried to contain the damage. This data was obtained illegally. It cannot be trusted. It is the work of a terrorist trying to destabilize our great empire. But the data was too detailed, too accurate, too damning. Counselor Mira stood up, her voice shaking with rage. How many of my people were taken, How many children sold to work in your mines while you sat here and counted your profits? The council dissolved into chaos. Accusations flew. Alliances fractured. The Dominion's carefully maintained unity began to crack, and Katya was just getting started. She didn't run after exposing Station 7-9. She attacked. Using the information she had stolen, she began systematically destroying the slave trade infrastructure. A processing facility on Vex Prime went up in flames. A warehouse on Krell Station was bombed. A transport ship full of captives was intercepted. The prisoners freed. The crew left stranded. But she didn't just target facilities. She went after the people responsible. A noble who had made millions from slave labor woke up to find his mansion surrounded by the families of people he had sold. He barely escaped with his life. A corporate executive who ran mining operations staffed by slaves found all his financial records leaked to authorities. He was arrested within hours. A military officer who had provided security for slaver ships was found dead in his quarters. The official report said heart attack, but everyone knew better. Baba Yaga had visited him in the night. The Dominion tried to fight back. They sent hunters, assassins, military squads, but Katya moved like smoke. She was never where they expected. She struck and disappeared. She was patient and ruthless, and she wasn't alone anymore. Across human space, something was stirring. Old veterans heard the stories about Katya Volkov and remembered their own service. They remembered what it meant to be Baba Yaga. They remembered that some things were worth fighting for. Colonial militias started finding reasons to patrol near suspected slaver routes. Ships carrying suspicious cargo started having accidents. Pirates who captured slaves for sale started disappearing. The humans weren't officially at war, but they were making their position clear. Don't touch our people. Don't touch anyone's people, or we'll remind you what we can do. The Dominion's high command held emergency meetings. They had lost control of the narrative. The slave trade scandal was bad enough, but now they were losing actual battles against an enemy that wasn't even officially fighting. We need to end this, Calvin said. We need to give them what they want. You mean surrender? A general asked, horrified. I mean negotiate. Return the stolen colonists. Pay reparations. Make the humans stop. They sent the offer through proper diplomatic channels. Return of all surviving captives from Haven's Rest colony. Financial compensation. A formal apology. And in return, Katya Volkov would stand down. Her response came 2 days later. Not through diplomatic channels. She broadcasted on every emergency frequency, making sure everyone in the galaxy heard. You took my granddaughter. You took 43 people from my home. You think giving them back makes us even? You think money fixes this? Her voice was calm, cold. No, I want more than that. I want the entire system burned down. Every slave freed, every slaver prosecuted, every official who looked away removed from power. That's the deal. And if we refuse? Calvin asked in his response. Then I keep hunting. I keep exposing. I keep showing the galaxy what you really are. How long do you think your empire lasts when everyone knows the truth? The Dominion's leadership was divided. Some wanted to meet her demands. Others wanted total war. The arguments went on for days. While they argued, Katya struck the Dominion's main slave processing facility on Varkesh Prime. It was a moon-sized operation, hidden in plain sight as a mining complex. Thousands of slaves worked there in conditions that would have been illegal anywhere else. Katya infiltrated the facility over 3 weeks, studying it, learning its weaknesses. Then, on a night when the security shift changed, she acted. The explosions were carefully planned. They destroyed the prison block's locks but left the structures standing. They disabled the guards' weapons but didn't kill them. They shut down communications but left life support running. By the time anyone in authority realized what was happening, 3,000 slaves were free and rioting through the facility. Ships were being stolen. Guards were being overwhelmed. The whole operation was collapsing. Katya moved through the chaos searching. She had the facility's records. She knew who was here. She knew who she was looking for. She found her in a work detail, thin and scarred but alive. Anya looked up as Katya approached and for a moment didn't recognize the woman in tactical gear, covered in dirt and blood. Then recognition dawned. Babushka? Katya pulled her granddaughter into a fierce hug. I've got you. I've got you now. They escaped on a stolen shuttle with 50 other freed captives. As they cleared the moon's atmosphere, Katya looked back at the burning facility. She had her granddaughter back. She had freed thousands. She had exposed the truth. But she wasn't done. She opened a communication channel to the Dominion's high command. When Calvin's face appeared, she spoke with absolute certainty. I have her back. Thank you for that. But I made a promise. You took her once. I said I would make sure you never take anyone again. I keep my promises. She cut the transmission before he could respond. Anya looked at her grandmother with worry. What does that mean? What are you going to do? Katya checked their course. They were heading to human space, to safety. But this wasn't over. It would never be over until the system that allowed this was destroyed. I'm going to finish what I started, she said. I'm going to teach them that some lines should never be crossed. In her heart, Baba Yaga smiled. The witch from the old stories always finished her tales, always made sure the wicked learned their lesson, and this story wasn't finished yet. The emergency session of the Dominion High Council was unlike anything in the Empire's history. Half the council members were under investigation. 3 had already resigned. The protests outside the council chambers could be heard even through the thick walls. The Empire was tearing itself apart. High Magistrate Calvin, his 3 heads no longer speaking in harmony, looked exhausted. We must act. The human has made us look weak. Our enemies gather strength while we fight among ourselves. Then give her what she wants, Councillor Mira said. End the slave trade. Punish the guilty. Rebuild our reputation. We did give her what she wants, a general snapped. Her family is safe. The facility is destroyed. What more does she expect? As if in answer, a new message arrived. Not through diplomatic channels. Katya had taken over the Dominion's emergency broadcast system and was speaking directly to every citizen in the Empire. My name is Katya Volkov. You call me Baba Yaga. Your leaders took my granddaughter and 42 other innocent people from my home. They were sold like animals to work in your mines, your factories, your homes. And your government knew. They profited. They protected the trade. Images appeared behind her. Records. Transaction logs. Communications between officials discussing quotas and profits. All the evidence she had gathered over months of hunting. I have my granddaughter back. But there are millions more still enslaved throughout your empire. Children, families, people who never did anything except be in the wrong place at the wrong time. Your leaders say the slave trade is illegal, but they made billions from it. They say they value life, but they sold it for profit. She leaned closer to the camera. I made a promise. You took her once, I said. I will make sure you never take anyone again. I keep my promises. The slave trade ends. Every slave goes free. Every official involved faces justice. Or I will keep fighting. And I won't be alone. The transmission ended. In the council chambers, silence fell. Then Thelmar's voice came from the observer's gallery. He had been watching, as he always did, the old veteran who no one listened to. You still have a choice, he said, limping down to the council floor. No one stopped him. You can learn from this. End the trade. Prosecute the criminals. Show the galaxy that you value justice over profit. Or you can try to kill her and make a martyr that will haunt you forever. There is a third option, the general said coldly. We trap her. We end this before it becomes a full war with the humans. Calvin looked up. What are you suggesting? She has her granddaughter back. The girl is safe in human space now, but our intelligence says the girl will be transferred to a medical facility for treatment. We leak the location. We make it look like an easy target. When the Baba Yaga comes to check on her, we're waiting. Our entire home fleet, 5,000 ships. She can't fight that. That's madness, Mira said. You want to station our entire fleet as bait? Leave our capital defenseless? For a few days. The human won't be able to resist. She's protective. She'll come to verify her granddaughter is safe, and we'll be ready. Thelmar shook his head. You're making the same mistake again. You think this is about military power? About who has more ships? That's not how humans fight. That's not how Baba Yaga fights. Then how does she fight? Calivan demanded. She makes you regret starting the fight. She makes you pay a price so high that winning isn't worth it. And she never fights fair. The council voted. The moderates who wanted negotiation were outvoted by the hardliners who wanted blood. The trap was set. The location was leaked through carefully arranged intelligence channels. A medical facility on Dominion's border, where Anya Volkov was supposedly being treated. The home fleet gathered in the system, 5,000 ships hiding behind the star waiting. And Katya came. But she didn't come alone. The sensors picked up her ship first. The same modified cargo hauler she had been using. Alone. Just as predicted. The fleet prepared to close the trap. Then more ships appeared. Dozens of them. Then hundreds. Small vessels. Cargo haulers. Private ships. Old military surplus. They came out of jump space from every direction surrounding the system. "What is this?" the fleet commander demanded. His communications officer looked pale. "Sir, they're all human. Civilian transponders, but I'm reading military-grade weapons on most of them. There are at least 300 vessels. 300 against 5,000? They're insane." But Thelmar, monitoring from Vortalis, understood. These weren't regular military. These were volunteers. Veterans. People who remembered what Baba Yaga meant. People who had heard her call and answered. The battle that followed was nothing like a normal engagement. The humans didn't try to fight ship to ship. They couldn't win that way. Instead, they did what humans did best. They caused chaos boarding parties, electronic warfare, suicide runs. They hacked into the Dominion ship systems and turned their own defenses against them. They rammed vessels with ships packed with explosives. They fought with a desperation and creativity that turned the fleet's numerical advantage into a liability. In the confusion, Katya's ship headed straight for the medical facility. But it wasn't to check on her granddaughter. It was to reach the facility's communication hub. She fought her way through the station's defenders. She was one woman, aged and tired, but she moved with the skill of decades. She reached the hub and began uploading data. Everything, every piece of evidence she had gathered. Every crime, every name, every transaction. But she didn't just upload it to the networks. She sent it to every government, every news organization, every embassy in the galaxy, and she included something else. Video testimony from the freed slaves, thousands of recordings, children describing their capture, adults detailing their abuse, evidence that no one could deny or dismiss. The fleet commander received a priority message. His superiors on Vortalis watching the battle had new orders. "Stand down. Cease fire. Let them go. Sir, we have them cornered. Stand down." "That's an order." The fleet stopped firing. The human ships began to withdraw. They had lost dozens of vessels. Hundreds were dead, but they had accomplished their mission. As Katya's ship limped back toward human space, she opened a final communication to the Dominion fleet. "You wanted to make an example of me. I made an example of you. Remember this. Remember what happens when you hurt the wrong grandmother." The aftermath was swift and brutal. The evidence Katya released was impossible to ignore. The Emperor himself was implicated. He abdicated within days. Calvin and half the High Council were arrested. The slave trade was abolished with immediate effect, and military forces were dispatched to enforce the ban. Thousands of slavers were arrested. Millions of slaves were freed. The process would take years, but it had begun. The Dominion sued for peace with the human coalition. The terms were humiliating: reparations, territory concessions, formal apologies. The empire that had dominated half the galaxy was forced to bend. Katya returned to human space quietly. She was not officially celebrated. She had violated treaties, killed thousands, started a conflict that could have become a war. The government couldn't praise her without admitting they approved of her methods. But among the colonies, among the veterans, among the common people, she was a legend. The Baba Yaga who reminded the galaxy that humanity's greatest weapon was not technology or numbers. It was the absolute refusal to let evil go, unpunished. Thelmar requested a transfer to the newly formed Dominion Human Relations Committee. He was old, damaged, and had nothing left to prove. But he felt he owed it to both sides to help prevent this from happening again. His first meeting was with Ambassador Chen and several human military advisors. They discussed treaties, trade, and security. As the meeting ended, Chen asked him to stay behind. "I wanted to thank you," she said, "for trying to warn them, for understanding what they were doing." Thelmar touched his scarred face. "I learned during the contact wars. Your people taught me that some lessons are written in pain." "What did you learn?" "That humans are dangerous. Not because you're stronger or smarter than other species, but because when you're pushed, when your families are threatened, when injustice becomes personal, you don't stop. You don't compromise. You become something else entirely." Chen nodded slowly. "We prefer to be good neighbors, good partners, good friends. But when that fails, you become Baba Yaga, the monster that monsters fear. Yes, and we make sure you never forget the lesson. On a quiet colony world far from the political centers of human space, Katya sat with her granddaughter in a small garden. Anya was healing slowly with therapy and time. The scars would remain, physical and emotional, but she was alive. She was home. Babushka, Anya asked. Why Baba Yaga? Why did you choose that name? Katya smiled, remembering the old stories her own grandmother had told her. Baba Yaga was a witch who lived in the forest. She was scary, dangerous, but she wasn't evil. She tested people, punished the wicked, helped those who deserved help. She was harsh but fair. And that's what you did? I did what I had to do. I made them understand that some things can't be tolerated. That taking people, hurting people, selling people like objects has consequences. But so many died. Yes, and I will carry that weight for the rest of my life. But how many more would have died if I did nothing? How many more would have been taken? Anya was quiet for a moment. Will you teach me? What you know? Katya looked at her granddaughter with sadness and pride.